To learn from the Prince of Peace requires a careful study of not only what he said, but how he lived. In a world scarred by feelings of betrayal and injustice, it would benefit us to see how the Savior treated those who would betray him. The Last Supper took place around a Roman table called a triclinium. A triclinium is a U-shaped table where the guests would rest on the floor on their left arm, making free their right hand to eat. There was an order to the seating arrangement. The host would sit second to the left. The guest of honor would sit on his left, and a trusted friend would sit on his right. The pattern would continue from the most important sitting on the left to the least important sitting at the end of the table on the right. If the servant was sitting at the table, then they would occupy the last seat. It was for this reason that Christ's disciples were arguing who would sit where as they entered the upper room. Christ ended the argument by assigning the seats. According to the biblical accounts, Christ sat as the host. Then he had his youngest apostle, John, sit on his right hand as the trusted friend, and he sat Judas on his left as the guest of honor. If we read John 13 verse 24 correctly, we could place Peter across from John, which would place the chief apostle in the servant's seat. The Prince of Peace was teaching a principle. The disciples were fighting for seats of honor and eminence, but the kingdom of heaven is different. The Savior taught, "He that is greatest among you, let him be as the younger, but he that is chief, as he that doth serve. For whether is greater, he that sitteth at meat, or he that serveth? Is not he that sitteth at meat? But I am among you as he that serveth." The custom of the feast was that the servants would wash the feet of the guests prior to eating. This would have been Peter's job based on his seating assignment. However, distracted by their seating arrangement, this important step was neglected. To demonstrate his teaching, Jesus proceeded to wash the feet of those at the table. Christ then instituted the sacrament so that they could return from future distractions to remember him. In the sacrament, they would covenant to keep such commandments as Jesus had just given them, that the greatest should be the least, and the least among them the greatest. Christ prayed for his enemies and blessed them that cursed him. All along, he trusted in the plan of his Father, that there was something beyond his betrayal. Jesus was teaching his disciples that we can trust in our Father in heaven to deliver us from our captors. For Christ, deliverance came in the resurrection. For each of us, our deliverance will have many shapes and forms. But for all of us, we will follow in that divine pattern of resurrection, as each of us will be delivered from the bonds of death. The sacrament is a reminder of this deliverance. No matter how dark the hour, the promise is that his Spirit will always be with us to bring us peace.